Men have a lot of insecurities. One of the biggest insecurities is that I'm not worthy of your love until I do X, Y, or Z. But at the core, what I hear from hundreds of men is that they're not worthy of deep, deep, deep love if they were to show all parts of themselves.
Let's talk about the sacred sons. How do you help men?
We create a space for men to help themselves. Men are waking up online. They're coming online to that they cannot carry that weight of the world any longer themselves. Imagine a piano player having an entire piano, but only 3 or 4 of the keys worked. What is he able to compose? Well, that's what men are living.
You said we can't change our partner, but we can embody the invitation.
And look, I get so many messages from women. How do I change my man? The answer is you can't. If any man is doing anything from a space of shame, the intention behind it isn't pure. He's only doing it to get the nagging to stop. Men love the completion of a task to get to the next thing. That's just how we work.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
Totally wrong. I think what women and what the world craves in men is healthy leadership. And I think what we're witnessing in our world right now is confusion.
Welcome to the Sacred Thomas Podcast.
Okay, sitting down with Wayne Barkus. How you doing today, man?
I'm incredible. Yeah, I'm feeling great.
Feeling great?
Yes.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you decided to actually sit down with me. The audience doesn't know this, but we met at Lifetime.
Yeah.
And you were surprised by my name.
Yes. Yeah, it took me off guard for a second.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
The name just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt in that the word sacred and the organization that I'm a part of, the Sacred Sons, has been such a meaningful part of my life that when I actually met somebody with the name Sacred, I just was like, oh, I need to know more. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I feel like we were meant to meet, man.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yes.
Well, I actually want to dive into a quote that I saw on your Instagram.
Let's go.
This one, when I read this, it hit me. So you said, men praise her, celebrate her, protect her, ravish her, listen to her, heal your masculine so you can hold your feminine. What does that mean?
So when I talk about masculine and feminine, I'm referring to the energies that are within us. And what I've come to learn in my journey of personal development is that men also hold a feminine energy and a masculine energy within us. And what we're seeing in the world, what's so prevalent right now, is domination, manipulation, what would also be known as toxic masculine qualities. And I think it's I think it's just so important, and it's so time for men to honor feminine in a different way within themselves and outside of themselves. So when I say praise her and celebrate her, it's really seeing women in a completely new light rather than an accomplishment or a scoreboard. It's really for their true beauty, for their essence, for them being the portal for the divine into the world, being those that birth. And so, and ravish her, being like, can you show up in a way where you really let go of any possible rejection or abandonment and really just surrender at her feet and love her in a totality that's abnormal.
You said something about toxic masculinity. Can you go deeper into that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
From my experience of being a man, one of the things that I got to learn about myself was how I was showing up to the world, how I was showing up to my culture, to my environment, to the workplace, to my wife, to my children. And what I came to learn about myself and the qualities that I possessed is that I had a lot to heal. I was carrying around decades of anger, decades of resentment, decades of unclosed loops of, I would call it the FUs that I needed to say that I was walking around with. And it was coming out sideways. It came out sideways in my marriage. It came out sideways at work. If I would go to a bar, I would be looking for an excuse, somebody to bump me just so that I could release that FU that I had been carrying around forever. Could have been my mom, could have been my dad. We could go deeper into that. But when I think of toxic masculinity, I think of an overflow from a place that's been untouched, unhealed, or not looked at. It's an unconscious way of operating, something that's running the operating system that I have yet to evaluate. So it's a shadow aspect of the masculine. And when I say shadow, I mean it's running in the background, but I can't see it. It's just carrying around with me.
It's almost like you're not even really in control of your life.
Totally. Yeah. It's the autopilot that most of humanity hasn't woken up to. That's actually, it's like I say, so many people go to the iPhone store and they'll grab the new next latest model of the iPhone because it's got a new operating system. But so few are able to actually lift up the hood and look at their own operating system. What's running the show? What is on autopilot? And can I pluck out some of the hardware to create a new operating system?
How does someone do that? I'm sure it's a pretty complicated answer, but how does someone, if you were to talk to someone who they finally become aware that they're not in control of their life, how would they start to rewrite that operating system to take back control?
I think there's an extra layer to that they're not running the system, is that they're not taking responsibility for their system. Okay. And if we take that even further, if they're not taking responsibility, there's probably a piece of blame or victimization that's really inherent in not only their language, but in their livelihood. I think one of the biggest shadows of humanity that we're experiencing right now is victim consciousness, or this is happening to me. This continues to happen to me. I'm just the type of person that, per usual, even just in the simple language of how people love to create suffering in that space of victimhood, in order to really break out of this is happening to me constantly, it really takes this level of awareness to say, is it possible that this is happening for me? And it's a very subtle shift. But if all things are happening for my greatest good, why is this showing up for me? Why is this person continuing to bang on my door late at night? Why am I getting phone calls past 11? Why are these people emotionally dumping on me all of the time? Why do I attract men that are emotionally unavailable? What is it about me? And when we shift into the responsibility piece, then there's an invitation for us to go deep. And that's where the journey ultimately begins.
I love that. That's so true. Actually, speaking of that, let's actually go back. Because I know we've had conversations in the past. Let's talk about your story, because you were in a dark place once. Can you tell me about that?
Several. Yeah. I'd be happy to. 8 years ago, I was living in the suburbs of Illinois, and I was doing what I would say is the middle-aged man's dream of attempting to get to this place where I have a house, I have nice cars, I've got a fire pit, a patio. I had the perfect package in terms of presentation to the world of what felt safe, what felt secure. I would say that I felt as though I had made it in life. But I didn't actually feel that way. I was depressed. I was suffering from such deep anxiety that I would often have panic attacks, and I wouldn't even know how to communicate what was happening. I felt like my heart was going to stop. I felt as though I was going to die. It was extremely scary, but yet I didn't share with anybody what I was going through because I hadn't been taught about emotions. I hadn't been taught about vulnerability or transparency. All I had really witnessed and learned was that I need to keep going. I need to act as though I have it all together. I need to put on this show, this masquerade of being Superman. And it crashed and it burned 8 years ago when my wife and I decided to get divorced. And it was the first time in my life where I was able to sit in my front room and sit on my couch and look around my house and recognize all of the things that I have done, all of the hundreds of hours that I have spent building this castle. The walls just crumbled. And I had no idea who I was underneath it and what I was going to do for the first time in 14 years alone. And even scarier than that, I had a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old daughter that needed me. They needed me in their lives to show up in a good, healthy way. And I didn't know how to do any of that. And it was really confronting.
How'd you turn that around?
I didn't. Until I did. The wild thing about it was that as I looked around and I said, okay, all of this stuff is now gone. What is the natural thing for me to do? Well, the natural thing for me to do was to recreate the facade that I had it all okay. And it was really challenging because I had to go to friends, I had to go to family. And naturally, the only thing I knew how to do was to put on the mask, the presentation, that it was all going to be okay. I was going to be okay. I continued to shoot arrows of blame at my ex-wife for all of the reasons. This was all her fault. I can't believe you did this. You're the worst person in the world. It took me several years and going really deep and dark into addiction with alcohol, cocaine specifically, and really just getting even further and deeper down the rabbit hole. There was a day that my 4-year-old daughter in the back seat said something to me and I absolutely lost it. I just snapped and I screamed, and it was how can you do this to me? And she said, I'm scared, Daddy. I'm scared. You're scaring me right now. And that moment for me rocked me in my core because I had realized that it had nothing to do with her. It had to do with myself. It had to do with my lack of processing what I had gone through. It had my lack of my addiction and how that had run the show, and how I was really feeling disconnected from who I really was, and I felt lost and hopeless. And that was the moment where I said, I have to show up different for my daughter. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be a single parent. I need to find some community. I need some tribe, somebody that can support me through this. And I'm going to take accountability for this, and I'm going to change. And so it took the tears of my daughter, the anguish that I saw in her, to reflect back to me the anguish that I was actually feeling inside of me. And it broke me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went through all that. You got to your lowest.
Yes.
You broke.
Yeah.
And then what was it that got you to have this comeback story? What was that when you found the Sacred Sons, or?
Slowly started leading to it. As I said, I'm going to begin to go on some self-discovery, exploration.
Some trial and error?
Some things started showing up. At that time, the relationship that I had gotten into with my partner, it was absolutely falling apart. And naturally, it was falling apart because I was operating with the exact same system that had caused the last one to fall apart. I did not have the tools to be in relationship in a healthy way. The relationship was reactivity. Let's go get drunk. Reactivity. Not talk about it the next day. Constant closure. She had gotten so sick of it that she hired a life coach.
Okay.
And she started going on this journey, and it was so powerful because she started setting boundaries with me. She started taking ownership of certain areas of the room. I don't want you to go into this space. This is going to be my meditation corner. She would cut flowers. She would start to craft some beauty in her life. And I was inspired. And the thing that I noticed more than anything was that the reactivity that we used to have in relationship completely subsided. She stopped engaging. She would say, I'm not here for this conversation, and she would walk away. So the toxicity of the back and forth no longer had fuel. The fuel was just on my end. And what that did was it caused me the beautiful invitation to look at myself. Whoa, she just stopped. She disengaged.
She didn't even pay any attention.
She gave it no fuel anymore. She's like, I'm just going to go and do my thing over here. And then she got sober. And so the things that we used to do, we no longer were doing. She said, you could go and do that, but I'm not here for it. It's not a 10 for me. I was like, what do you mean by it's not a 10 for you? It's just the people and the places and the energy of the environment. It's no longer a 10 for me, so I'm not going to go.
What do you mean by it's not a 10? What does that mean?
A 10 being a full body yes. And I'd gotten so used to saying yes to everybody, every invitation. Do you want to go out tonight? Yes, of course. Do you want to go do this? Yes, of course. I said so many yeses that I was creating covert contracts with people. I was saying yes, I was going to do the thing, but I didn't really want to do the thing. And then I was resentful towards them for how did they not know I was too tired to do the thing? I was still stuck in the pointing the arrow at other people and blaming them. And what I got to see was I got to see her take responsibility and really show up for herself with like, I'm checking in, I'm breathing into my body. My body is not saying yes to this. It's not a 10. And like, if I were to close my eyes, if you ask me what's a 10 right now, I'm going to say hopping in a plane and going to the ocean. That's a 10. I know that's a 10.
I'd have to agree.
Right? Like, yes, ocean, bring me there. But if I'm going to check in and somebody's inviting me to a party with a bunch of people I don't know, and so might be there, and so, I'm not feeling a 10. If it's not a 10, it's not a yes. And so I got to see her set a new bar, a new barometer of what it was to really enter into something with some intention. And one day I felt her slipping away. I was like, the things that used to light us up, the things that we used to have in common, were starting to fade in different directions. I'm going here. She no longer wants to go there. I want chaos. She wants silence. I asked her about meditation. I had seen her sitting in meditation in the corner of the room for 15, 20 minutes. She'd asked me to be quiet. And it was the first time. I was 37 years old, Sacred. 37 years old. It was the first time I actually created 15 minutes to go and sit in a room, no different than this, light a candle, close my eyes, deep breathe, and just sit in the silence and pay attention to my thoughts. And it was so potent. It was so transformational. It was so healing for me, because within minutes, I realized that I needed so much more of this in my life. What was I doing? Running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Where was I going? Why was I continuing to chase something? Why didn't I come back to this space more often? And it really created, I was crying. I felt joy. I felt bliss come over me. And I just felt like something unlocked in me, like a gift into myself, into my inner world, that I then committed that I was going to do for the rest of my life. And it's been one of the biggest game changers in my life.
Wow. So whenever you first sat in that room and started listening to your thoughts,
Yeah.
you cried.
Big time. Yeah.
What were you crying about?
I think I finally created the space to actually catch up to my thoughts, because my thoughts were rampant. It was, why don't you love me? She's going to leave me. I'm so mad at that person. Why did you do that to me? But I never created the space to actually feel. I heard them, but I ran from the actual essence of the feeling. And so the cry was my body's recalibrating what I actually didn't create space to feel. And that wasn't the first time I cried, nor has it been the last time I cried. I just created space for the emotion to actually close the loop. Emotions are only like 9 seconds long, but so many people carry that emotion with the unclosed loop that it then gets lodged. It's like stuck. And sometimes you can even tell if you're looking at somebody, like, it looks like your chest is heavy. Something's tight there. There's a tightness, or shoulders or neck. My entire body was completely contracted. So the breath allowed my nervous system to exit fight or flight and sit and rest and digest, which after 37 years of no rest and digest, my body was finally sighing and saying thank you. And of course I emoted, I cried. I was like, oh, this is what I needed. I got to actually grab a thought and feel it. And as I started to grab the thoughts and feel it, the thoughts would disappear. And I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool journey. And then I could only equate it to like a locker that's so stuffed with footballs and clothes and all of the gear that when the locker's open and it pours out, that's what meditation was for me. It was a pouring out of all of the thoughts, all of the feelings, so that I could come back to center.
I feel like in society today, most men feel the way that you felt. I don't think we are taught to feel our feelings. I think we're taught to ignore them and keep going and keep going and keep going.
Man up.
Yeah, man up, suck it up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weight that we all carry.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't serve us, ultimately, is the reason why there's such a depression, why men have such a massive suicide rate. It's like the weight of the world. I've heard story after story after story of men that look like they have it all together, and then they took their own lives, and they had a family and they had children. This isn't news. This is like one of the real pandemics, is that men are suffering in silence.
Absolutely.
Massively suffering in silence. And I was that. Until I found a space where I felt like it was a space where I could actually express in a way that my soul was calling me to. And that was with the men's group that I'm a part of.
Yeah, let's talk about the Sacred Sons. How does, I know you guys help men. How do you help men?
We create a space for men to help themselves. Okay. So I think the helping is them really taking ownership of their life. And for me, when I first stepped in, the dynamic was my partner was getting tired of mommy and me. And I think that's a big dynamic with men in relationship, is that they don't open up to their bros. They don't go to their guys with all of them, but they'll go to their partners with all of them. And so many women are absolutely exhausted with holding the mommy therapist role in relationship of saying, you got to learn to work on these things with all of your people, because all of you is welcome. And that's what I was being nudged to by my partner, who's still my partner, is she said, I think you need to go to this men's group. And I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on social media. I was a middle-aged construction worker. And so I didn't have the access to the wealth of wisdom that's now on social media. I mean, back then, Instagram was just pictures. People were actually still just taking great pictures. Like now it's totally changed everything. This was 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm so bad at math. 2016?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 2016. And she was fluent in IG, and she just went in and looked up men's group and found this. And one of the first steps of my journey was to get a journal and open up the front of the journal and to do a self-evaluation. And I think it's just so valuable for every human to do a little bit of a self-evaluation along the way. I'm not talking about resolutions, like a resolve to not do this and do this. I'm talking like, what's your level of happiness? Where are you at right now, and what might be missing? When I looked at it, adventure, I was at a 0. I would do what most people were doing, which was I would go on vacation for a week. I would drink. It would take me the entire week to actually recalibrate my nervous system to relax. And I wasn't even present with it. And so I really felt the urge when I looked at friends. My friends were at a 2 and a 10 being the best. My friends were at a 2. Everybody had their families. I didn't really have guys that I could go to or have these intimate conversations with. Like we're saying, it was just like, I'm going to show you a fraction of me, but I'm certainly not going to open up the box and show all of me. And I wanted adventure. I wanted to go and get lost. I wanted to get on a plane and know that there was a destination that I was going to go that was holding some mystery to it. I had lost all mystery. It was so predictable. I was going to wake up, I was going to have coffee, go to work, do the thing. So I went to the mountains of California and I circled up with about 35 men. And what I felt there was the catalyst to the biggest change that was in my life. I felt that I was given permission to show who I really was and to experience the parts of me that I had repressed, shamed, and denied. And what I felt along the way and still continue to feel is the absolute tearing of liberation in every cell, in every fiber of my being, for being able to be fully expressive for not only what I've gone through, but what I continue to go through, and have a space where I feel supported. Like, these guys got me. They've been in the trenches with me. They've held me when I was at rock bottom. I know that they're there for me. They've seen all of me, so I can now bear more of myself to the world. And for me, that's been the most liberating walk of my path.
How do you let go that much when it's the first time you've met some guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. Safety is like the number one foundation of what we do, and really understanding the word sacred. Like, what is sacred in the space for us is our truth. And that's all of our truth. And so we really create a lot of safety in the environment. We have rules, we have agreements, and these rules and agreements hold the essence of the container for the entire weekend. And it allows men to relax into a space where they can reforge their relationship with trust. I did not trust men when I first went to it. There was a man that was out there that my wife had an affair with. All of the pain that I felt in my entire essence of my being, I felt for every man that I looked at. You are the guy. You are the guy. You are the guy. You're the guy. And it wasn't the first time I experienced this. I've been in many relationships where it's like, oh, that one cheated on me, or that one cheated on me. All that pain that I had towards that guy was standing behind every guy. It was what I saw. I love the quote that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so I recognized really quickly that as I was seeing these men, I wasn't seeing them as they were. I was seeing them from the pain that I was holding within me. So I had to trust, for one, that this group had me, but also it was such a visceral feeling when I was met with a hug and a smile and a warmness and embodied sovereignty by a man that had done his work. by a guy that knew the trenches of himself. He knew his addictions, he knew his shadows, and he had conquered it. When I actually met for the first time a man that had gone through that journey, it was like I could feel it. I was like, whatever that guy has, which feels like joy, peace, and an understanding of who he is, man, I crave that. Like, what is it that you've done on your path? He's like, we keep showing up to this space, and we just share from our heart. And so it didn't take long for me to relinquish my ego and my judgment to actually feel into a man that was leading from his heart, a man that was leading from vulnerability, from the truth of his experiences, that gave me permission for me to actually do the same. And it didn't take long. It just took a couple shares where I was like, wow, that's my story. Wow, that's my story. Once everybody started to open up, I was like, oh, I think I'm safe to share a little piece of me. I didn't drop it all in one weekend, but I was able to share a piece and feel into what that did in my body, and it felt like home. I was like, this feels like home. And that was just about 4 years ago now.
Wow. It sounds like when it comes to making a massive change in your life, environment's everything.
Environment was a massive shift for me. The environment that I was in was no longer serving me. I think that the environment that I was in, Chicago, the hustle bustle, the freeze, the winter, the lack of sun, the depressive nature of that, I think I needed to go through that long enough to know that it was no longer the space for me. And once I knew, the hit came in, and it was like, I need to go, and I need to be surrounded by more like-minded people. If your environment's not supporting your growth, then likely it's enabling your mediocrity.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one touched my soul.
Yeah. And I say that for friendships too, for relationships as well. Yeah.
What does it mean to know your inner world?
For me, it's really having a intimate relationship with my intuition. So there is a voice, there's this inner knowing, there's this gut feeling that I'm in tune with that says, it's like a whisper. It's like the phone's ringing all of the time with information. But if we're so busy and we're so wrapped up in the doing, we're not hearing the voice that's actually the guidance system, like the GPS, the navigation system. What I've learned for myself is that I'm very in tune with energy. I'm very in tune with my surroundings. I'm very in tune with my capacity for chaos. So I'm able to be in spaces and places that a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle. And I also know my limits. And I also know what I need to do to recalibrate my nervous system in order to come back to center. So when I talk about like a knowing of my inner world, not only do I know what I've gone through, I know how it impacted me, and I know how I was able to move through it, which prepares me for when something else appears in my life, is an invitation for me to go in my toolkit and say, I now have this. I now have this. I now have this. I think the biggest problem that men have is men suck at self-soothing. Like a massive self-soothing issue is going on in the world, which leads to addiction.
What is self-soothing?
Self-soothing is the way to experience what's happening in your inner world without jumping out of it. And when I say jumping out of it, I mean doom scrolling. I mean grabbing whatever the thing is that goes into your body emotional eating, emotional drinking, substances, porn, whatever the thing is that a man goes to grab versus actually feeling and tuning in and getting really close with what that sensation is that's in his body without ejecting. And so when it comes to navigating my inner world, can I be with whatever that energy is that's communicating to me in a way that is an invitation to my fullness? My fullness is not in a bottle of alcohol at the bar. That's not my fullness. That's my escapeness. So my fullness is knowing what that thing is, knowing where I get to move to, what I get to do, and ultimately what I need to give myself in order to come back to all that I am.
So if you're a man that's struggling with pain, depression, hurt, how do you sit with that? How do you actually allow yourself to feel that?
You just do. Yeah, you just do. You know, I have so much compassion for men that don't have the wherewithal to sit with it because they're so afraid of what is actually going to happen by feeling the thing, by experiencing the pain, the sting of rejection. But the temporary pain, the temporary sting of feeling it is so much greater than living an entire life running on a program that's creating all of these circumstances in his inner world that are reflecting his outer world. And it's exhausting. Like being a man that had so many addictions, it was absolutely exhausting and unfulfilling to have no control, to feel like I didn't have any control. Like the voices in my head were driving me to the place. But the very place that I needed to go was into my inner landscape to actually just sit with the thing for 10, 15 minutes in nature, give it to God. Cry in the grass, pound the grass, scream, whatever it is, it can just be one step towards it that typically something can unlock for a man to experience more of himself. And I also say, seek support. Because so many men, like for the man that has no idea how to navigate his inner world, and he's like, you want me to go sit in a room, light a candle, and possibly cry? That sounds really woo-woo, or that sounds so far left field. Well, therapy is a great place too. And that's where I started. I started with a therapist, and they took me as far as I could go, which was actually vocalizing the thing. And there was a lot of liberation and able to get my story out and hear it outside of me and have somebody reflect back to me. Oh, so I'm hearing you say this, but ultimately what I didn't receive, and it's okay because it set me on my journey, is I didn't receive any alleviation in my body of any of the stuck energy that I was experiencing. That was a different quest. It was like, now that I have the awareness that I'm likely suffering inside and I vocalized it, now I get to experience a new toolkit of how to navigate that versus the toolkit that's not only really expensive, but I'm waking up the next day feeling like hell. It's putting a sever in my relationship with my partner. All of these little micro addictions, that's not who I am. It's just how I've learned to cope.
Yeah. Well, I know you said that you had an addiction to cocaine.
Yeah, that was one of the most prevalent
alcohol.
ones. Yeah, I loved chaos. I loved chaos. I can say that, I think it was Tony Robbins that I heard say, your emotional home is where you're most comfortable in. And my upbringing was absolute chaos. My mom wasn't diagnosed because she didn't actually go to the doctor to find out. But later on in life, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so I lived in a household of extreme highs and extreme lows. And so when I say my emotional home, it means that's the place that was comfortable to me. So I was very used to the massive mood swings. And so when I would experience massive mood swings from anybody, I just thought it to be normal. And so that up that she would go on, it was super familiar. So naturally, cocaine or Red Bull and vodka, when I would crank up on that rocket ship, it was like, yes, this dysfunctional space actually feels very comfortable. This feels super familiar. But I had no idea that that was my baseline. My baseline was set to overdrive.
Yeah, a lot of our toxic traits come from childhood trauma.
Yeah, I think I would even say that I don't even know that I would use the word toxic traits in it from trauma, more or less our wounded patterning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like the patterning that happens after the trauma happens is something that's just really running the show that we're super unconscious to. And it creates toxic behavior for sure. But I really like to just kind of point to that space as simply just a pattern and something that's living inside of you that we get to reprogram. And we get to feel, and we get to continue to feel, and continue to create space to rewrite that program. And it's deep work.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of heart. It takes a lot of soul to really lean into that space, because so many people are just comfortable in the numbing of it versus the actual let me go into that space.
Tell me how you help men reprogram while they're on the retreats at the Sacred Sons. Like, so tell me just some of the ways y'all actually help.
Yeah, that's a great. The Sacred Sons have been the next step for me after the talk therapy. It was, let me actually have a physical space of therapy where I can actually move my body in a new way, where I can actually vocalize things in a new way. And so the Sacred Sons are really about self-leadership. And when we show up for ourselves and lead in a new way, we get to show up for our families, for our culture, for the world in a new way. But it all starts with the way that we show up for ourselves, with our vices, with our addictions, and with our language as well. So we create these ecstatic states for men to enter into, for us to access the thing. We'll call it the quiver moment, where there's something that's online, there's something that's been stored, and in conversation of other men sharing, they'll be able to access it. And so we create an environment that's completely safe. And oftentimes that space is by putting on gloves. And we'll put the gloves on and we'll do some training. And then we'll put guys in the ring, and they're not fighting that other guy. They're really fighting their own demon. They're fighting whatever it is that's holding them back in life, their fear, their limitation, their inner critic. They're stepping in, and that guy is holding the space for them to actually physically move through that thing. And it can be a matter of 10 guys leaning on one guy while he's on a ground and he's got to push himself out. The way that cathartically releases the energy that's stuck in his body, it creates a shift. And it's super visceral when it happens. And I'm able to see it in the guy's eyes. His pupils change. There's a lightness that happens. His posture changes. His throat looks like it loosens. Something has happened and shifted in his body. What I like to say is, like, it's not it's not that we're doing anything other than creating space for the amazing technology of our body to do what it needs to do. Our body knows what it needs to do in order to release the thing. We just need to create the space in order to move into it for our body to do the work, and then us literally just rally around him as the body's doing the quiver and wants to like scream or cry or hit a pillow, however it looks for him to actually connect to the energy that wants to move through. We're just allowing it.
So you guys create a space where men feel comfortable to tell their story. You go deep into that story, and then you let them release through physical activity.
Yes.
Just trying to make sure I got it right.
Yes, it could be physical activity, and it could just be in conversation.
Okay.
If somebody's sharing about, what I just witnessed at an event that I was at in Utah, as a man stepped in and he had just lost his father. And he was feeling grief. And grief really has no timeline. And so, I like to think of grief as like the gift that the ones that have left us in order to feel, to remember them. And so the way that we handle grief is if one man steps in, well, then I'll ask the question, who else here has lost their father? Well, half the room did. So I'll have all of the men come in the middle, and I'll have them look at each other. And for one, just connect to the fact that you're not alone. So many men think that they're alone, especially if they've lost their father. That's their hero. Like, that's their mentor. And now they have another group of men that are sitting in front of them feeling the same thing. Sometimes that's all it takes, is just knowing I'm not alone in this, and they can see the tears in the other guy's eyes. And I'll just ask them to share one thing that they loved about their father, that they wish he could hear. What would you say to him if he was right in front of you? And I'll just have them share with each other. What would you like to say to your father right now that you didn't get to say? And it really gives them an invitation to unlock some of the grief and create a potential new ritual or a new ceremony for them to honor their father moving forward when they leave this space, where we want men to be able to have a shift in awareness of how they can show up for themselves when they get into the world. If I'm moving through the world with all this grief, well, then I'm probably not super present with my family. I'm not super present with my job. What would it look like for me to create a weekly ritual of having like a little, altar for my father, where I had a picture of him and I just wrote him a note? And I just had that moment with him as though he was still here. So we give guys these invitations to access this space that they weren't even aware existed within themselves.
So you've probably encountered and helped probably hundreds of men, right?
If not thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah, globally. Sacred Sons is one of the world's largest, most it's growing into other countries. We just had an event that sold out in Australia, UK, Ireland, Scotland. We've got Africa on the horizon, that the next event's going to be happening there. Calgary, Canada. Men are waking up online. They're coming online to that they cannot carry that weight of the world any longer themselves, nor do they want to. It's exhausting. And everything's imploding. And so in that implosion, they're looking for a new way. And really, this isn't a new way, Sacred. What we do is really, these are ancient ways.
We're unlearning the programming of today's society.
Yeah, I mean, we're unplugging from the programming, and we're just going back to the roots. We're going back to the earth. We've got our feet off. We're walking barefoot. We're getting the benefits of the reduction of inflammation just by grounding our feet, like you and I did right before this podcast. We're dancing around a fire. We're singing. We're banging a drum. We're feeling the music. Really, what we're doing is we're bringing our song back online. Some men have forgot their song. And I like to think of it as like, imagine a piano player having an entire piano, but only 3 or 4 of the keys worked. what is he able to compose? Well, that's what men are living right now, is they're living with a piano or only 4 or 5 keys. And so they're trying to create a song, but it's not working. And so what this work has allowed me to do, and hundreds and thousands of other men, is to be able to bring their song out into the world in a completely new way. And that's just by accessing the parts of them that they haven't shared. So in the sharing, the song starts to come online.
I can imagine being a part of that energy, that group, you know, finally letting go, letting loose, releasing. Sounds like an epic time. How, if you go through that, how do you go back to regular society and retain that?
I mean, that's a great question. That's a great question. And it's been a big part of my journey, is the integration of going into what we call this reality with the information of knowing, like, wow, that just happened. That was such a shift in my environment and my way of thinking. So the ultimate first step is, how do we self-lead within what we have in reality? Like, if reality wants to, if society wants to disconnect us, and these are the things that I use to disconnect, what do I need to do in order to create more connection? Well, we say brotherhood is the medicine. Like, you no longer need any of these other medicines. Brotherhood's connection's the cure. And so integration 101 is stay connected. And I have brothers all across the globe, men that I can pick up tomorrow on my phone, and they're there for me. So I stay connected. And I will admittedly say that one of my biggest edges is asking for support. Hands down. Even though I have hundreds of men that look up to me, men that I can call, I still have this thing within me, this little programming that says you can do it on your own. You can lone wolf it. You can be Superman, and you don't need to ask for support. And as soon as I hear that voice, I just make the call. Like, hey man, I don't even know what's going to come through, and here it is. I don't need anything from you. I just needed you to know that I'm going through it right now. It might not be all okay right now, and no longer am I even going to try to present that I've got it all together. I'm okay. Actually, it's crumbling at the moment. I know it's just a wave, but it's crumbling. And then what that usually does almost every time, Sacred, is it gives him permission to do the exact same thing. Oh, I'm so glad you reached out. I'm actually, I've got some things going up. Let's do a Zoom call. And then we get on the call, we're talking, we're vibing. Thank you. Like, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for hearing me. I feel better just talking to you.
Yeah, one of the things that I have trouble with is also asking for support.
Sure. Yeah.
How do I get past that?
Superman complex.
Yeah, no, I feel like I could. I grew up. So my mom had 5 kids. And I already know there's definitely been points where she's been good. There's been points where we've struggled, after my mom and dad divorced. Having 5 kids is tough. I think the way I saw it, I didn't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
And I think I've carried that up until adulthood. So when it comes to asking for help, it's tough.
For sure.
It's tough.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I can relate. And thanks for sharing that, because we share similar things. Yeah. With my mom being bipolar, history of mental illness, going in and out of mental institutes, I didn't want to ever make my mom feel like I was a burden. I wanted to mother her, and I wanted to basically self-sacrifice my needs at the expense of hers. Now, that got me in a lot of trouble as time went on. And so I'm grateful we're having this conversation, because, there are no accidents. There's only synchronicities in terms of like where I got by self-sacrificing my needs and showing up as Superman is it crumbled. It it absolutely, everything crumbled. And what I've found in the asking of support, I've always been received with nothing but love. It's only opened me up to more love, and it's given permission to others to share with them. So it's just the reciprocity that comes from asking, which is wild, because it's like, why are we being told not to, why are we told to keep it all together when ultimately all we're sharing with others is truly, it's an illusion. Like, if I don't know what you're really going through, I don't really know you. I know a piece of you that you're willing to share, but I'd really like to know more of you. Like, can you open up and give me more? And in that giving more, I'm met with more, and I'm receiving more, and then I'm feeling more connected. I'm feeling like I can trust you more. The thing that we really point to is, like, when I see a man that's walking around as though he is suffering an inner war and he's losing, like he's falling apart inside, it's challenging for me to trust that man, because he doesn't know himself. He simply doesn't know himself, where he's at, what he needs, and likely whatever is his coping mechanism isn't serving him either. And so when men are able to ask for support, we just create more trust with people. Hey, thank you for extending a piece of, like, you're somebody I can trust because you're sharing more with me. You're giving me more. And so what I found in this community is that the trust that we feel with ourselves, because we're allowed to ask for support and possibly not receive it. Possibly that's our thing to sit with. Maybe this guy isn't available. Maybe he's exhausted, but I have a plethora of other places and spaces I can go without just collapsing. And so I've found asking for support being the deepest bridge to more intimacy and love in my life. And I'm here for that, man. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Less facade, more bridges to love.
I love that. Speaking of support, actually, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit. Have you seen that clip, that Shaq clip, where he talks about, he's having a podcast with someone, and they asked him a question about vulnerability. And the question was, do you think it's okay to be vulnerable to women or something? And Shaq just said, you should never be vulnerable with a woman because she'll use it against you.
Oof.
What do you think about that?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, well, clearly he's projecting some unhealed woman stuff on everybody, which is the very nature of what I was saying, is like, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So I'm cool sharing my world to anybody because I got me. Like, that's the thing. Like, there is nobody in this world that will abandon or reject or judge me worse than me. There is nobody out there. Once I got clear that I am my own worst enemy, and I shored up with my own inner enemy, and I returned home to myself, I don't see rejection as rejection. I only see it as redirection. So if I'm going to share a piece of me with somebody and they're rejecting me, cool. They're not for me. Thank you for showing me. That's it. So, rather than, she did this to me, which is the very thing of blame. It's like, that blame is there's no responsibility or accountability in the blame. And I love Shaq too, but I'm not with him on this one.
Oh, I'm not with them either. But it is a sentiment that I think a lot of men have, because, and it's of course it's placing the blame.
Sure.
But in the past, with a lot of men, if they've been vulnerable to a woman,
sure,
it's come back to bite them in the ass.
Sure.
How do you rewrite that story? How do you get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, and where you're able to share from a heart space.
Yeah. How do you not? How do I want to ask this. That's a fear mentality.
Absolutely.
How do you stop having fear-based actions based off of things like that have happened in the past?
By continuing to move through, by doing the thing that makes you afraid.
Doing the thing.
Yeah, the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear. And ultimately, the treasure of being vulnerable and really wanting to open up to somebody, the treasure is love. Like at the core of it, in sharing more of us, I'm extending the bridge to your heart to say, do you love me? And so the fear is in the rejection. But I'm not, like I said, nobody can reject me worse than me. And so if I'm going to open up and share with somebody and they're not on the other end to receive it, well, then cool, like good. I'm not going to spend any more time with somebody that's not available for it. Thank you early on for showing that to me. You might not be the person for me. It's really about getting clear of like, just because it was that one person doesn't mean that there's not a woman out there. And trust me, there are thousands. The amount of women that are in support of vulnerability is massive. Women are craving and yearning and longing for a man to be deeply connected with his emotional capacity and his expression. They're just like, give me some of that. Somebody that's actually in touch, because they can feel him. Women want to be able to feel their man. They want to be able to trust his lead. They can't trust his lead if he's full of shit, if he's covering stuff up, if he's leaky with his energy. But they can trust a man that's able to share from the space of his heart, knowing exactly who he is, knowing in the fear of rejection, you might reject me, but I got me. Like, I got me. And so at the end of the day, it really comes back to, it's probably the wrong one. Redirection.
Right.
And continuing to move into that space where it's like, look, there's, and I've been in the dating world for a long time, but there's a time and a place for emotional or vulnerable conversation. I don't know that the first date's the first one. I think it's cool to open up in titration very, very slowly. And as you start to open up and understand where you're evolving into, okay, cool. Like I'm going to share a part with you. I'm going to share a piece with you of me. And I'm going to feel, this is very vulnerable of me to share. But, I had a mom that had mental illness. And I also recognized that in that mental illness, I self-sacrificed a lot and I showed up for her so much. So one of my patterns is like self-sacrifice. I love to show up for the world. And the edge for me is to express this and to also ask for your support when I'm overdoing it. So because I'm able to share this with my partner, she's able to see my shadow mechanism, which is toast. He's toast. He's gassed. He's overdoing it. And we want him to avoid that space where he starts to drift, and then I'll create a sickness to slow me down. I haven't been sick for 2 years. And so I've been able to have a partner to reflect back to me where she thinks I might be overdoing it. And I have the awareness in my routines where I recognize where I'm overdoing it. And I get to like slow it down. So there is absolute magic that comes from vulnerability. When I say, bro, I haven't been sick in 2 years. I'm talking the whole world has got the flus, the sniffles. I have allergies or whatever. I've been on over 30 planes.
How's that possible?
Like 30 planes across the globe. I've had no illness whatsoever.
How is that possible? We had COVID.
This is post-COVID. But yeah, I mean, people were getting the runarounds. Yeah. People have the masks. And I'm like, my health is my inner understanding of what I need and giving that. And it's also, that's what's so dope about relationship is I have a partner that gets to check me when I'm on autopilot and I don't see it. Hey, Wayne, like you've been going in, you've been showing up, you've been doing your thing. I know you struggle with slowing down. How about, and then she'll invite me into the space. So like in our relationship, we kind of seduce each other into the space that we don't like to go to. Hey, I notice you've been on your phone a lot. How about we turn off the phone and we go for a walk? Rather than you're always on your phone. It's like, hey, you know, it would be really great. Like I could use it. Maybe you'd benefit from it too. Is let's go for a walk and just talk. Maybe not even talk. And so it's a new way of relating and understanding people by knowing more of how we operate.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to actually interact with each other.
It's juicy.
And it's juicy. Yeah, great word. It's how do you get to that level? I mean, I guess I know she started with the inner work and then you followed suit.
Yeah.
You know, I guess years and years of
practice. Yeah. It's all practice. The word that comes to mind is mindfulness for me. The most powerful thing that I did in the beginning of my journey is I got really mindful about everything that I was doing. And when I say mindful, I mean zooming out the lens. How quickly am I even brushing my teeth? Like I'm really brushing my teeth super fast. Where am I in a rush to go? Can I actually just show up for my mouth and have a nice smile today? Can I maybe brush for 30 more seconds? And with every little subtlety of that mindfulness, then I'd put the brush down and I'd look myself in the mirror. And so many people are just yearning to hear the words from somebody else that they'll never offer to themselves. So I'd look in the mirror and I'd have mirror talk. Wayne, you are so lit. You are so inspiring. I love you. I see you. I support you. I got you. I'm proud of you. I'm cheering for you. I think every man is just waiting for a father to say, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Well, how about if I said it to myself? How about if I faked it until I believed it? I didn't even believe the words. I hated myself. I didn't look in the mirror and think, I love you. I was so disappointed with myself. But as I started to make these little tiny micro habitual adjustments, I started to create this new capacity that was within me of like, I can receive those words. That feels good. I'm now starting to live life in integrity where my words and my actions are lining up. Oh, that feels good to be integrity. Wayne, I'm proud of you for being integrity. Keep doing it. I just saw a podcast with Mike Posner. He spent like 10 minutes every day in the mirror. He does a pep talk and he's like, from this space is how I show up in the world. And here's what I'll say about it. We have like 30 trillion cells in our body. Our skin is all cells. They have two jobs: to listen and respond. Listen and respond. So our environment, our cells are like little microphones constantly listening to it. If we're in an environment that are saying, you're a piece of this, you suck, you're a failure, all of that has a frequency to the tone and it will lower our inner vibration and often cause people to go into such a deep depression, such a well. So I had that voice going on in my head. You're a failure, you're a fuck up, you're a this, you're a that. So I had to take that inner critic voice and create an inner badass voice. And man, I'm telling you, like affirmations in the morning in the mirror, I felt, Wayne, you're lit. Of course, that's great. Instead of Wayne, you're a failure. Right? So when I started to say these words and my posture started changing, I started to become that which I wanted to be.
What do you say to the men who listen to what you say and they're like, saying intentions to yourself in the mirror, that's woo woo, that's crazy talk? Like, what do you say to men that think that?
I say it's science. Like, this is the actual practicality of what our cells are doing in our body is they're listening and they're responding. And I would say test it. Rather than dismissing anything, test it. Sit for 5 minutes, come up with all of the words of anybody, your favorite rock band, your favorite whatever qualities you see in that person are likely the qualities that you see in yourself that you no longer see. So write them all down. Your 5th grade teacher, he was cool. He was funny. Your 12th grade basketball coach, he was expressive. Like all of those things, start with I am this. And just say the list, say them for 5 minutes, see how you feel. It's all in the quantity. Like, men love logic. It's not this, so it's not that. I'm talking about actual feeling. And so it's an edge for most men. Let me try to feel it. Okay. When you get hit in the face, you can feel it. But when you get hit in the face with positivity, you can also feel that there's a frequency to the words that I'm saying. Sacred, you're lit. Sacred, you're beautiful. Sacred, you're strong. Sacred, you're courageous. Sacred, you're brave. How does that feel?
It feels great.
Feels good, right?
It feels great.
So why wouldn't I give it to myself? Why would I look for it outside of me? Why wouldn't I start with me first so that when somebody actually reflects those words and says it back to me, I'm like, oh, cool. That's my reference point. Like they can see it that I see it in me. My outer world's my reference point of where I'm at. If somebody say you look exhausted, I'm like, oh, I must need rest. Or, you look joyful. Okay, cool. Like success leaves clues. I'm doing something right. So I use the words that people say to me as kind of like an observation of what I can't see within myself. If that makes sense.
You have a very captivating energy about you, that's for sure.
Thank you.
And whenever I walked up to you at Lifetime, I think we talked for a while, a lot longer than I was just asking, what are those joggers you're wearing?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're in deep conversation.
Yeah.
So it's, man, it sounds like you've really done the work and you continue to do the work. Love that. Yeah.
I don't even call it work anymore. I just call it play. Like
you do the play.
It's the great play of life. I worked long enough. Right now I'm in play. Like, what does it look like for me to move through the world in a spirit of play? Like bringing that nature back into my life. Then I get to show up to everything and it just feels good. Like,
that's when you say you do. It sounds like when I said the work, play's a better word. And it reminds me of some Alan Watts teaching. You know Alan Watts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I've gone down the rabbit hole with him.
Like it's like, what is the point of life? Life is a dance, it's just to dance to the music.
Yeah. When do we stop dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're dancing.
What do you think about, what do you think is the meaning? I'm going to get real way out there, but what do you think why do you think we're here?
I love that. I think the meaning of being here is I think this is a play. Like, I love the idea of we've been dropped into this reality and we've got all of these actors, all of these parts of this play that we play into, this relationship, this drama, this thing, all with this underlying quest with the question of what are we here for? What is it that I'm actually here to do? So I think the purpose of why we're here is in the longing and the exploration, the constant urge to create. Like, I have something that's coming through me. I don't even know why. I don't know where it comes from. You could call it God. You could call it from a different dimension, but there is this feeling that's coming through me. It's a GPS that's pointing me in this direction. I can't explain it, but I feel like I need to birth this thing into reality. And then maybe I'll do something else. And then maybe I'll do something else. So if you ask me what I think we're here to do, I think we're here to vibrate out of fear. We're here to vibrate out of the lower frequencies that the majority of the earth is kind of hovering around. And we're here to create a new way of moving, a way of love, joy, creativity, peace, harmony, and bliss. Like, give me some more bliss in my life. And to create. Yeah. I feel like we are creations of a creator that has this program within us that we get to create art. And that art might just be our essence. It might not actually be an actual piece of art. It might be the way that we move through the world, the way that we inspire people, the way that we talk to our children, the way that we smile to the guy that's having a tough day at the gas station. For me, it's as simple as that. How can I move through the world here and feel the hurt, feel the pain that people are going through, and potentially shift their day with a simple smile?
I'd have to agree. Yeah, I'd have to agree. And from my own perspective, once I actually started doing the thing that I was the most scared of, which is speaking on camera.
Yeah.
It started to bring a new essence of joy into my life, you know, a new essence of purpose. And yeah, just to get messages saying that, hey, you know, I've never heard some of the things that you've said explained in that way.
Yeah.
And it really touched me and, you know, made me smile, or made me actually think introspectively about, you know, the decisions I've made. Just, yeah, I think we're here to love and
boom.
Yeah, just to love.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
I'm gonna switch gears real quick.
Yeah.
Go back into and I'm actually gonna take a drink of water. You're powerful, man.
So are you.
Man, I you say so am I, and I believe that. But you just ooze a lot of wisdom, you know, and I think that's actually talking to my mic.
Yeah.
No, you just ooze a lot of wisdom, and I think, man, that experience, you know, just the lowest of the lows you've gotten to, and to be able to reincarnate figuratively and spiritually.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes me want to really, really be more ingrained and more around people like you. I do have certain people in my life like that.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot that I communicate with on a daily basis.
Sure.
You know?
That's great, man.
I think I need to check out the Sacred Sons.
Bring it through, man.
You said they're coming. You guys are coming to Austin, right?
Roll in here in May. Yeah.
May?
Yeah.
Exact date?
Mother's Day weekend. Yeah.
Mother's Day weekend.
2nd through the 5th.
I think I need to make that
If the hit's there, bring it through, brother.
I think it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know it's there when it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I would love to see you, to have you, to hold you in that experience. Yeah. It would be profound. Look, if we were to reverse back to these pants, man, here's what's wild. I left my luggage in Ireland after leaving an event. I flew from Scotland to Ireland to Chicago, and I get there, my luggage didn't show up. And I'm like, oh my God, my luggage is in Ireland. It was literally all of my clothes. I'm about to pick up my children. I had no clothes, but I didn't know the rules of picking up the bags and if they're going to transfer it. They didn't transfer it. So again, all things are happening for my greater good. Always. Like, I'm not blaming anybody. It's not the airline's fault. It's not that they didn't send me an email. They sent me an email. I didn't see the email. I just, it lapsed my awareness. So I had to go to the store to buy a pair of pants, right? That very pair of pants that I was wearing was the very pair of pants that you came up to me because you saw. So I didn't know at that time why that was or why it was happening, but I was moving from the lens of, oh, I'm super curious why this is showing up for me. And then I went to a store that I've never gone to. The first thing I did when I walked in was I saw the pants and I'm like, those are dope.
The SRV.
Yeah, need a pair of those. And then I see you at the gym, and there's certain people I come across in my life where there's like a little lightning bolt moment, or it's like, oh, that person's going to be part of your life. Maybe briefly, maybe something, or there's something there. There's just this little magnetism too. And I don't know what it was about you that I was somewhat like, oh, I was like, that dude's he's got swag. Like he's got good style. He's similar build. He's got a great smile. And then you came up to me, and again, back to the pants, the synchronicities. Now I'm actually here with you on the beautiful platform that you've created. And I get to share the journey of my ups and downs with the world, and just the embodied experience that I've gone through that could possibly be the catalyst for one man to have permission. And if that one man is you, and you come to the event and you get to touch or experience something that you've never touched, or something that deeply calls to you, then I understand the mission here. And that mission is that I'm a conduit for the divine to be a collaborator for whatever it is that can spark something in whatever anybody else is up to that could change the trajectory of your life. And for me, like, that's how I like to operate, just in the background. Like, I like to do my work and step back. Like, whatever just happened there, cool. So yeah, man, come put on the gloves. Let's roll.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm ready. It's like Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back.
Yeah.
So you got to trust that the dots will connect.
Yes. And I love to sit in the actual connection of the dots and live in the curiosity of, what is this going to look like? Yeah. What's that going to look like? And so that's the space I like to roll in the great mystery.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to another quote.
Yeah.
And this one, I think it really would be helpful for someone. And it's this quote you actually did in your life. You said, "We can't change our partner, but we can embody the invitation."
Yes.
Speak on that.
Oh, man. I love this because I see it so often, especially for women. Look, I get so many messages from women. How do I change my man? How do I get him to do the thing? How do I get that person or this person or that person to change? The answer is you can't, but you can embody the invitation. And for me, that was my partner. That was her creating the boundary with me to the reactivity. That was her creating a beautiful space, an altar space, a little picture of herself as a kid. She was showing up for that younger version of herself. And she was making amends. Hey, I'm sorry I lost my playfulness. I'm sorry I lost my dance. I'm sorry I lost my song, but I'm going to show up for you now differently. And she would look out the window and she would pray. I'd hear the words coming off of her. She'd turn around and there'd be a glow. There was a radiation to her. That was the invitation. She didn't have to say anything to me. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. That very essence of that is not an invitation. If any man is doing anything from a space of shame, the intention behind it isn't pure. He's only doing it to get the nagging to stop. And this goes both ways.
That is so true.
Yeah. Sure, I'll do the thing that you want. Let me make it stop. Men love the completion of a task to get to the next thing. That's just how we work.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
Totally wrong. Happy me, happy her, right? Like the happier that I am, the more I'll invite her into some of my happiness. And that's the invitation. Look, we don't need more men to do more shit. We just don't need more men to do more shit, to do more things, to get the promotion, to get the job, to get the house. What we need is more men embodied and operating from a space of love, joy, peace, and compassion. That's what we need in the world. We don't need more conquerors. We're seeing what that does right now. But men that are operating from love, peace, joy, compassion, they then become the invitation for their partner, because their partner is going to see something in him that's coming online, and he doesn't even have to say a word. It's so felt. What is it that you're doing? I hear all the time. What is it that you're doing? People say, how's your day? I say, incredible. And they're like, wow, incredible. I'm like, yeah, I have breath. I have life. I have vision. I can feel. I have my legs. I just saw your last podcast. So inspiring to be in a space of gratitude with the hand that he was dealt. Like, yes, I have so much to be grateful for. Gratitude for me is the invitation for others. Like, if I can operate from a space, if I have it all, I don't need more. It's like, oh, cool. That relaxes most people. Oh, you have it all? I have it all. I got everything that I need. Okay, that sounds attainable. You have nothing, but you have everything. Boom. Much easier than, well, do 500 things and then you'll get there. It's like, no, I'm going to do my work and I'm going to walk my way. And look, there's plenty of times where my partner just falls apart. She just crumbles. It'll be a self-destruct. And I'll just let her be. And I'll say, okay, she's going through it. I'm not going to try to change her. I'm going to love her. I'm going to pray on her. And I'm going to support her. I'm going to hold her. I'm going to nurture her, whatever I need to do. But I can't change her. All I could do is give to myself and pour into myself more so that she can continue to see the light in me. Because whatever darkness she's going through, she needs a lighthouse. And I like to think, man, that we're lighthouses out there, just shining the light. And there's some people that can see it. They're very far in a distance, and some people are closer. And that's the invitation. Hey, what is it that you're doing? Right? Like, I'm not going to spread the gospel of men's work that this is what you need to do. It's like, no, it's there. It's available. If you're curious, maybe follow that ping.
You said follow that pain?
The ping.
Oh, ping.
The ping. I ask all the guys before they get there, what led you here? Oh, this or that or this or that. But ultimately, it was a ping. It was that universal ping that said, I need, like an aha, I need this. I don't know what it is. I don't know why this thought came in my head, but I'm going to follow that ping from the universe, that nudge.
Yeah, it's something... Trying to describe that ping, it's something that you're not necessarily content with how life is.
Sure.
I guess it can show up in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if it's not just a ping and you avoid the ping, usually it becomes really loud.
Yeah.
And it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder until the circumstances are like, I can no longer take this.
Yeah.
Let me go back to that ping.
Yeah, people don't change until you hurt enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
If it's just easy to go back to the reset. I pulled a couple quotes for you because I love these.
Good.
This one I like the way you said it too. You said, ego chases the delicious while love focuses on the nutritious.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Did you write that?
I did write that. I've never used AI. Honestly, these are like hot tub downloads.
Yeah.
Where if I'm just chilling and I'm in like a really good place, usually listening to music opens me as my heart space and I feel super receptive.
Yeah.
And, I kind of think about my journey a little bit and I'm just like, what did I do back then? Oh yeah, I chased the next best thing. Like whatever was a feast for the eyes. That was great, which a lot of men do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me look at that. But there was no nutrition there. And nutrition often isn't what men want. because with nutrition also comes confrontation. And when I say confrontation, I mean it's an opportunity, like nutrition for the soul. And so it's an invitation into the parts of ourselves that we often don't want to look at. Women will bring that up. And so
what do you mean women will bring that up?
Women that will recognize that a man is not emotionally intelligent or not connected to his emotions or shallow or over assertive, they'll typically point it out. Like as time goes on, they'll confront it. A woman that knows her worth and is like really tuned in to the kind of man that she wants, she'll be able to pinpoint that effortlessly. Like, oh, there it is. I see that substance in you. I've been there. I got that lesson. And so nutrition is like nutrition for the soul. Like I love being filled with being able to be reflected back, like my celebration, hearing, I'm so proud of you, our dance or celebration with each other. And let's see if we can be more. Can we be even more together? Can you be more of yourself? What if you did go on this podcast? What if you did show up to 300 men and led in that space? Like, what would that look like? That for me is nutritious. That fills me up to the more of me versus the presentation of me. And so the ego's grabbing, but like a woman that really knows herself and knows her worth, nutritious.
I'm thinking about how you said, showing up authentically. It's a problem on social media. It's a huge problem.
For others?
Yeah. I'm saying in general,
sure.
It's, we show our best selves.
Sure.
A
portion.
We show a portion. And I mean, I try to keep my social media positive.
Yeah.
But even I feel like I don't show enough of exactly who I am.
Sure. Sure.
And I mean, this technology isn't going anywhere.
Oh no.
So the things that you've said have actually inspired me to really, really, really tap in more to my authentic self.
Oh, it's awesome.
But it's hard to do sometimes when the camera's pointed at you.
Yeah, virtually is different. Like I operate in the physical space, so I go to weekend things and that I can feel. Virtually, I don't really know what people need necessarily, and I think what we're speaking to is what people need.
Yeah, I think people need conversations like this.
Yeah, rawness, realness, like transparency, vulnerability. Like there's more of you that's coming online because I shared some. Yeah. And so that's the becoming an invitation. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's what's happening in the Sacred Sons, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You gain the courage through other men being able to be vulnerable, and then it's like dominoes being knocked over.
For sure. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing to get to know people more. Like I want to be able to learn more about people. Look, I don't need to know like the inner caverns of your soul, but if you have something that your soul is calling you to do in this world, let me support you. Like that's the kind of brother I want in my life. Like, hey man, you're cool. We vibe. We can go eat, and let me encourage you. Can I encourage you to do that thing that you might not be expressing to the world that you're afraid of? Like, can I support you there? Because I need it. Like, I need support in that space too. When I go and do that thing that I'm feeling a little bit of like, I think that's the gift.
How would you help a friend that you see potential in, but they're stuck in a self-inflicting pattern of being addicted to the highs of alcohol, of porn, of chasing women? How do you help inspire a change in them, or is that possible?
how I would handle the situation is probably not what you would think. And it's kind of like 3-tiered. One, who am I to get in the way of God's plan? And so if somebody has to go to rock bottom, like that's where, that's oftentimes where the gold is. Now, I'm not going to watch somebody self-destruct without also sharing how that this is affecting me and also offering a space of support for them, more than me wanting to change them, because likely what they're feeling is the lack of love. And like love with conditions is probably what drove that person to drink anyways. And so if I can offer them some unconditional love in the moment, like I just love you exactly as you are. I see you. I know you're really having a tough time and I'm here to support you. But I also want to know that your, decisions that you're making is impacting our friendship. Because I'm not sure that I can trust you when you do these things. So I want you to know, like, you can come to me. I'll support you in any way. I will direct you towards whatever you need to do. But I'm also not going to enable this behavior by going to any of the places with you, by not acting like it's not like, let's bring the darkness into the light. Let's just have the conversation about how it's impacting you. And oftentimes that can be enough space that will create an awareness shift for them to potentially take responsibility, but it's not my responsibility for them to take responsibility. Right. My responsibility is just to share with how that behavior has impacted me in my life, and to probably put a loving boundary as to how much, I'm going to be a part of it. And I've watched a lot of friends, especially in my sobriety journey, they disappeared. And at first I judged the hell out of them. I can't believe you're doing it. And now, look, now I have massive compassion. They didn't get the tools that I got. Like whatever they're working with is all that they know. So how could I possibly inspire them by shaming them to do anything different? The only way I'm going to inspire them is for me to live my absolute best life, so that when they see me sober and joyful, maybe they'll just get that ping to say, I'm going to call him and see what he's doing. And then I get to say, are you open to advice? Because oftentimes people aren't even open. There's so many unsolicited advice going out there. That's why I stay off of social media sometimes. I'm like, I didn't ask for your advice. Why are you pounding me, telling me to stop, do this, stop, do that? I don't want to hear that,
Yeah, I think in your case, in everyone's case, when you have a friend that is elevating to, I guess in this context, we'll say an elevated level of consciousness.
Sure.
That could automatically bring shame to them.
It's confronting, big time.
And that's why you lose them.
And it's also part of their journey of self-discovery. It's like consciousness is like just the awareness of what we know, and unconscious, it's actually called non-conscious, is that which we don't know about ourselves. So when somebody breaks an addiction, then somebody else still has an addiction. They likely now have the awareness that, I have an addiction and this person walked away because of my addiction. So now they actually have a little bit of an elevated amount of consciousness around their addiction. But there's no transformation in awareness. Awareness plus action equals transformation. That's the formula. A lot of people are aware of their unhealthy habits, but a lot of people, aren't taking the action to create the transformation. So, with those, I throw up a prayer.
Yeah.
I'll also drop in some audio notes. Hey, I love you. Praying for you. Hope you're doing really well. Like if I can send love, but in some cases it needs to be love from a distance, where I'm just no longer a stand for allowing that behavior in my world anymore, because I'm not going to save them. They have to save themselves.
I want to switch gears.
Yeah.
So let's talk about love languages. I think it's super crucial to be able to understand women and women to understand men emotionally. And I think a lot of the problems that we do have is because we're not speaking the same language.
Sure.
Yeah, what do you think about love languages?
I love I love them, and I love the conversation of love languages because it opens up that which we might have to guess work on. I mean, it's really simple. My partner's physical touch and gifts, acts of love, and so just that information there in and of itself helps me prioritize what is it that you need. And just because I know what she needs, I tend to overgive in it because she just loves it. Like if she loves physical touch, I'm going to hug her all day. I'm going to come up behind her and I'm going to grab her arms. I'm going to touch her. I'm going to squeeze her. I'm going to hug her. It's really helped bring us together in a way that she feels super, super safe with me because she's expressed to me what she needs. I give it to her and we vibe that way. In my past marriage, love languages, like nobody talked to us about that. I didn't know. There was so much disconnect in terms of what she needed and what I needed. I couldn't even speak to what I needed. I think the power of love languages is being able to speak to our needs. This is something I need. And again, for men to be able to even express that, I need physical touch. I need a lot of touch. I love to be consumed by touch. It feels really good. It kind of quells my nervous system, putting a little pressure on my body. My children know that. We just have like hug puddles all the time where we're just like hugging. And then I asked my children too, like, what is it that you like? Well, I like gifts, I like gifts. Okay, cool. Do you like gifts more than you like hugs? No, I like hugs, but right now I really like gifts. So I think there's different seasons for love languages too. I think it's just like maybe the physical touch at some point, it graduates into like, I feel really, really nurtured in your physical touch. I'd like to evolve into like acts of service. How can you combine the two? And so that's kind of where I'm at in the maturation of an 8-year relationship. It's like, how can I do this, sprinkle this, and also offer some of that? Hit her with the triple threat.
Would you say that you and your wife are
Claudia? She's my partner. We're not married yet.
You said wife earlier. Oh no, you were talking about
my ex-wife. Yes.
Okay. So would you say you and Claudia? Would you say you guys are a natural match?
Ooh, for me, yes. Like when I met her, it was that lightning moment. Where just as I explained to you, there's just these lightning bolt moments where I feel like somebody's going to be impactful and purposeful in my life. With her, I felt it to a millionth degree, where it was like, this person has entered into my life to really shake things up. And I continue to feel that with her. I feel... we can call it soulmates. And, my belief is like, it's totally possible that there's multiple soulmates around the world. I just choose this one every morning. But yes, I absolutely feel like she is somebody that has created so much love in my life. It continues to pour and pour and pour into our relationship.
Do you think it's possible for a relationship where a man and woman's natural needs are polar opposite? Meaning, in an argument, she just wants you close, he wants space.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, relationship dynamics, there's a plethora of different ways it could go. Anxious, attached, however it is. For me, I was a runner and she was also a runner. So if we would get into confrontation, we'd go the opposite way. And so it was a big growth edge in our relationship to be able to sit in the fire of whatever that feeling was that made us want to run. And ultimately, the running away was the confirmation of the abandonment that we were trying to hide from. So we were abandoning each other because we felt like the other was going to abandon us. So we just both jump ship. And sitting in that fire of like, you could reject me and my truth, and you could reject me and my truth, has been the biggest growth edge of us just like accepting like, okay, this feels really uncomfortable, but I still want to express this. This is how what that did. This is what I felt. It's not so much about what you did. It's like, this is how I felt. And so that evolution in the relationship has just made like conflict dissipate rather than running this way, running that way. I'm so angry, going to bed, not talking. The silent treatment for 48 hours is like, oh.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I've been through it.
We all have. We all have. Like, we're all learning the mechanics of relating in a new way that brings us close. Like, the thing for me, Sacred, is that we've both closed the doors on exit. Like, how would you operate if there was no exit door? Like, in that space, we have nowhere to go. We're just sitting with each other. And sometimes it's silence. And sometimes it's like me just listening and not responding for an entire day. Like right now, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I will have a response for you later, because right now I'm feeling a little triggered. Like, I don't want to respond to you in a space of trigger. That's a reaction. I want to give it some time to leave my body so that I can come back to you in like a neutral state. We talk a lot about like where we're at in terms of the trigger. Is it like a +3? Is it a +5? Like, how much heat are you coming at me from? Because that might dictate how quickly I could respond. And we're like super cool with that. She's like, go ahead, take your space. If you need to walk around, sometimes I like readjust. Can you imagine relationships where rather than the other couple being like, you did this to me and I feel this, and the explosion and the eruption, if the guy would just walk outside, take his shoes off and take a couple deep breaths before saying anything?
I think that's magical, man. I think, and it's so tough to do for a man. It's even if you're, especially if you feel like you're right, it comes out,
Yes.
How do you get to that point where in a relationship where you both are able to actually do that? Is that just a lot of communication?
Yeah. And it's letting go of the rightness and me dedicating my entire life to understanding her. Like, can I be okay just letting my ego, my rightness, my wanting to control or wanting to change a substance of her, an essence of her? What if I just really was in deep devotion and practice to understanding all of the layers of her so that I can allow her to bloom even further in this relationship than she might not by herself? Like, how much can I just explore the depths of what she's bringing through and being like, thank you for sharing that. I now understand how that makes you feel. I'm going to do my best to do X, Y, and Z for you not to feel that again. It's navigating in a new way. But look, when we talk about love, like love with no conditions hits totally different than love that's riddled with conditions. I will love you when you do X, Y, and Z, but if you don't do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to throw you under the bus. That's not love. That's a prison. And a lot of people are living in prisons that they call love that can be, he did this, I'm out of here. What? Like, that's that in and of its love is so confronting. It's always there, and it triggers us to move closer to each other than away from each other. That's the true nature of love. Love doesn't drive us away from somebody when conflict happens. Love drives us closer. I love you. I see you. I want to understand you. Tell me more. So with me, when my partner's kind of, she's got a zinger for me, tell me more. Tell me more. I want to know more. I want to understand you more. The more that I get to know you, the more I open ourselves up to more love. Like, I'm here for that. The doors are closed. Tell me more. because it's not about me. It's about me relating more to her. I can't do that if she's not feeling safe to share.
And it's switching that mindset even during the arguments. It's
yes. Yeah, I mean, underneath the trigger that a lot of men want to jump, hit the eject button. I'm feeling this is typically, I'm afraid you're going to leave me. And so if I'm going to be abandoned or if I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to feel X, Y, or Z. I'm going to feel shame about it. So before you can even damage me, I'm going to damage you. So I'm going to say this is all a you thing, but really it's just an insecurity thing. Men have a lot of insecurities. And one of the biggest insecurities is that I'm not worthy of your love. Like, I'm just not worthy. I don't deserve it until I do X, Y, or Z. But at the core, what I hear from hundreds of men is that they're not worthy of deep, deep, deep love if they were to show all parts of themselves.
I have to be honest.
Always be.
This probably happened 30 minutes into the podcast, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And I don't think you can tell, but I had an emotion come over me while you were speaking. And I almost felt like crying.
Oof.
And in my adulthood, I could probably count the number of times I've cried on one hand, maybe two.
Wow.
I don't know why that happened. And I was holding it back. I don't know why it happened.
Sure.
I don't even remember what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because you can feel. That's great.
Yeah.
You're human. It's beautiful.
Thank God.
You're beautiful.
Thank God
That's
I'm
beautiful.
human.
You're human. Yeah. Like, again, this is just relation.
Yeah.
Like we're in relation to people. So being able to feel the substance, the pain, the agony, of their stories, like this is the gift in when we share these stories. It's like, wow, you might have just uncovered a piece of me that I didn't even know was online. And that's the play, the work that I do with men is like in the sharing of these stories. Wow, you just unlock something. I don't even, like you said, I don't even know what it was, but you felt it.
Yeah, I think I was thinking internally.
Sure. And as you get more and more and more familiar with that internally, you'll be able to point directly to it. Oh, this is my solar plexus. Oh, this is this. Oh, I'm feeling this or I'm feeling this. Yeah. And it just wants to come out. That's all. It's great. I'm glad you felt that.
So am I.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. You said, but we're back to the relationships.
Yeah.
Don't compromise red flags for potential or appearances. In today's society, if we got a beautiful woman, we want to keep her no matter what.
Okay.
Can you speak on that? Don't compromise red flags for potential.
Yeah, I mean, red flags, it certainly doesn't have to be like beauty by any means, but beauty can often sweep away what is a red flag, and it might drop it to a yellow, where it's like, oh, there's the thing. Now, when I'm talking about red flags, I'm talking about narcissistic behavior, gaslighting emotions, gaslighting your experience, could be, particular medications that somebody's, behavior is out of alignment with what you feel to be good, but they say they have it under control. Addictions to drugs or alcohol, whatever these red flags are. But if he's a 10 or if she's a 10, just overlooking them, or even not even just overlooking them, more of what I see in relationships is a fairy tale fantasy that not only I can change him, or he can change her, but maybe sometime down the road, they will be different. And so I'm going to bottle up all of this way that I feel about them right now and hold the vision for this fantasy future. Now, I got news for you. Right now is all we ever have. Ever. That's it. So if the person that's across from you is a red flag, I got news for you. They're a red flag. That's it. The potential that's in the future is denying the existence of right now. And that's all that will ever matter ever is right now. And so many people are in relationship with delusions of, well, if I get him to change or he gets her to change, they're dancing in a space that actually doesn't even exist. And that can go on forever. In my marriage, it went on for over a decade of delusional relating based on hoping that the other person would do something different than what they were always doing.
You always sweep it back under the rug.
And it completely cuts us off from reality. And it's a protective mechanism, sure, of like acceptance of, oh, wow, I picked a person with red flags. What does that say about me? So usually it's like, oh, you know, what are people going to think about me being with somebody that's got a drug problem? Oh, I need to change him. Or even in conversation, oh, he could change. He's doing this or he's going to therapy. Well, what is he like right now? Oh, he's still on the drugs. Okay. All right. Are you cool with that?
What do you think about relationship? And this is something that a lot of guy friends I have go through. And it seems to be same problem, different girl. I have a lot of entrepreneur friends.
Okay.
And, you know, girl falls in love, loves what they do, loves their ambition, loves everything that they're doing. They get in the relationship and they slowly try to take that away. The woman slowly tries to take that away. You know, hey, you work too much, or... Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it. Yeah, they slowly tried to pull them away from what they love to create. Why do you think that happens? Do you know?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say, like, because you said it's the same problem with different people.
Yeah.
I would be more curious as to why that's showing up for me. What is that reflecting back to me about myself, that I'm continually being showed that I need to change something about myself in order for me to be worthy of that person's acceptance. So if I were to take total responsibility, I'd be like, wow, that person is like, where do I think that about myself? Is there a part of me that feels that I need to do X, Y, or Z in order to get that person's love? Like coming back to me, like this is a me thing being reflected by some experience over and over and over again. Same energy, different body becomes an invitation to look in the mirror. Because typically underneath it, there is something that's wanting to be challenged. That's why I said about the feminine is going to challenge you to take a look at you. And usually it's the parts of you that you repress, deny, or shame. And it could be in the entrepreneur spirit, overdoing it. Maybe if I get this, I'll be great or worthy or lovable, maybe X, Y, or Z. Or maybe they also haven't gotten super attuned to the energy of somebody that possibly is manipulative. So like comes back to discernment with anybody. If there's not a sense of discernment of like the qualities that this person is looking for with somebody, then they're possibly going to attract somebody that's going to want to siphon them or change them. And so it really comes back to like, what are the principles of how you want to interact in relationship? Are you completely accepting of who I am, or do you want to change it? So these are like origin questions in relationship, like out of the gate.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask me, what is it that this continues to show up? I would say, A, why aren't they asking the questions before it shows up?
But it's you know, when you meet somebody, you put on your best face.
You do.
Huh?
You do.
Huh?
You do.
I do.
You said you do. You said you do. I don't.
No, in general.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
A lot of people.
Sure. Yes.
When they meet each other, it's, you know, they're trying to impress the other person.
Sure.
Not necessarily showing some of the insecurities.
Yeah, their best self.
Yeah.
Yeah, the presentation.
Well, what do you do then, you know?
Well, think about what the presentation's going to attract, right? If I'm looking for somebody with substance.
Hold on. You said think about what the presentation is going to attract.
Correct. Yeah.
That is powerful.
Yeah. Like if I'm putting on this presentation that I got all my shit together and I've got X, Y, and Z, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm traveling the world. What is that going to bring into my field? And what is it that I actually want? Do I want to be validated for all the things that I'm doing by sharing this? Or do I want to get real? And am I willing to be in a little bit of the depths with somebody to share a little bit more deeper, you know, qualities of myself, a little more intimacy, a little more vulnerability? So, you know, I think it's an invitation to say, maybe I'm going to share more and see what that attracts. Like maybe me sharing these parts will repel those that are here for just the surface. Like if I'm living on the surface and I'm only presenting my best self, then clearly I'm going to attract somebody that's living on the surface and showing their best self. Like attracts like. It's just an energetic match. So what would it be like for me to test the waters and maybe be a little like share a little bit out the gates?
Yeah.
How are they going to react to it? So I would say get curious about yourself.
Yeah, I love how what you say, it all comes back to accountability.
Yeah, it all comes back to me.
Self.
Yeah, it always comes back to self. As within, so without. How I am is what I attract.
Sounds like something my dad would say.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. How long have we been going?
I have no idea.
Neither do
I have no
I.
sense of time. It's all good.
Wow. We've gone through a lot.
We went deep.
Yeah, we've gone super deep.
We went super deep.
Super deep.
Yeah, which is great because this is how I roll like a lot.
Yeah.
How are you feeling with it? Like,
I'm feeling good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm trying to make sure I touch because I have some things I've written down. I want to make sure I touch.
Yeah.
Some of the main points. You said in a quote on Instagram. I love your quotes, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you have. You know, we vibe the same.
Yeah, I feel
sure.
that. I feel that. Yeah, I hear your nuggets that you bring through, and I'm like, yes, that's great. I love it.
I think I need to actually. Okay. Not that I would do this intentionally.
Sure.
But I want people to disagree with me. I think when I post things, too many people are like, "Yeah, you're right."
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know, that's when I say,
okay,
be more authentic. I mean, and everything I post, I believe in.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
Or emotional. I'm emotionally connected in some way. But you know, I want some more people to disagree with me. I actually posted something. I forgot what it was, and I was expecting people to debate a little bit more.
Okay. So you're testing the waters.
What was it? Hold on. It was, if you punish the truth, what was it? If you punish the truth, you're just asking to be lied to.
Let me breathe this in. If you punish the truth, you're asking to be lied to. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Were you trying to get...
What do you think about that statement?
Well, I'm super mindful of language. So putting... Like, I understand the intention of putting punish with punishing the truth. Like, punishing it meaning, like, withholding it. Or beating oneself up about it. So I think like that word is kind of grabby, like, and it's just not in my language necessarily, but I understand like kind of poking at the bear, like, hey, if you're like, for me, it'd be more like if you're punishing yourself or if you're hiding yourself.
So what I meant when I said that is, let me think of an example. Okay, this could be a simple one. So say your partner doesn't like that you've DM'd a female.
Okay.
And you're honest about the fact that you did that.
Sure.
And they blow up.
Sure.
Well, I think a lot of guys would be like, all right, well, I'm not going to tell you that anymore. That's what I meant by that.
Okay. Yeah, that's different context. Well, first I would say, this truth is not like capital T truth, like the world spins and the sun shines. This is more of like a trigger. Yeah. And so the trigger for me would be, you did this, therefore I don't trust you. And what a trigger really is a revelation. Okay. So our triggers are our treasures. Our triggers are revelations. So the trigger of her seeing that DM triggered some pain that she's held within herself that she's now projecting onto this situation, right? That's not me. Like, that's not about me. That's her pain. And so can I be with and understand her pain and what she could need from me to work through that in a way that she feels in integrity with the relationship? Okay.
How do you do that?
Are you feeling me?
Yeah.
So Claudia can grab my phone at any time, go through all of my DMs, and know in utter confidence that the way that I'm communicating with any woman that ever DMs me is completely in integrity with who I am. She knows 100% in my character, in the way that I walk, that I do not leak my energy. So she just knows. That knowing has come from me embodying that in our relationship and being completely intact with her. She can feel it, she can sense it, she can know it. Women are so intuitive. They can feel if a man's leaky. They could feel if a man's outsourcing validation. They could feel if a man's getting thirst trapped. I don't get thirst trapped. I can view it, witness it, and say, what a beautiful specimen. And I'll even share it with her. But she understands that underneath it, there's nothing grabby or nothing leaky. So there's two things happening. Is what she's revealing to me, is there any truth about me that I can take ownership? Any substance of truth. Look, if I see a beautiful woman, I'm going to be attracted to her. If you're lying about that, you're lying.
Yeah.
Like, look, she messaged me. She's definitely a vibe. And maybe I did feel something, and I'm going to be completely honest with you that maybe the conversation was coming from a little place where I got gushy. I got a little excited. Like, I was feeling a little bit of validation hit. Can I be honest about that? And moving forward, I'll never communicate with her in that way again. Would that make you feel safe? All women are looking for is to feel safe in relationship to the integrity of a man. Does that land? And so when I think of that, I really think of like coming back to, can I hold her and her tender wound of that other men probably have cheated or lied or disrespected her? Can I hold her heart in that space and remove myself from the trigger and just be like, yo, I'm not gonna DM people. Like, or can I share with you the people that I do DM? What would make you feel safe? Right? So if anybody is being super, super protective of the truth, I think they're hiding a little bit of the lie. Like, maybe there's something under there. Maybe she did bring something up.
Being protective of the truth. You mean like hiding it?
Yeah. Like when somebody confronts when somebody confronts, like the DM thing is just a little like, I don't.
Yeah, that's just an example. But all I'm saying is, it's, if, again, I mean, I love the way you explain that as well.
Okay.
But I was just saying, if in most scenarios that I've seen with guys, if a woman's going to blow up on them, I'd just rather not say it. You know what I'm saying? They resort to that.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather just keep it in the dark.
Just like...
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I love the way that you explain there's a way to actually tell the truth and still make her feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more about...
But she also has to be ready to receive that.
Totally. But if it's coming from a place of like, tell me more about what's coming up for you in that, then I might be able to find something that she wasn't even aware of.
Oh, when you're saying in the guy's perspective, being more curious about why it's coming up for her as an insecurity.
Yeah, relinquishing the defenses of like, can I drop the defenses and lean in and say, I'm curious as to why this bothers you. Because it might not be the same for, if you lined up 100 different women, everyone might have a completely different story of how that's going to make. One woman might say that Claudia's not going to say it triggers her. She could care less. Yeah. Because she also trusts me, but she had to work through some stuff. The other woman might have never had somebody cheat on them. So she might be like, oh, I don't care. So it's so different. That's why I'm like, get curious. What's underneath that? Like, tell me more.
That's a great way to look at it. A lot of us are bringing past relationship traumas into new relationships. And
all are.
Yeah, and never sitting in it, like you said.
Always reacting to it. Yeah, so like that, the way I look at it is like two children on the playground fighting over a toy in relationship in their 30s. And like their maturity in relating hasn't really changed past the reaction.
Yeah, man, growing up, I used to think that all adults had it together.
So did I. Ish.
I mean, as a kid, I looked up to my teachers, my coaches, everybody. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized nobody has their shit together.
Exactly.
And we're all trying to figure it out.
Big time.
At different paces.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, same, always. What I recognize about like people in my life that seem like they have it all together, and maybe you could relate to it, and like the pedestaling. It's like, man, they've got it together, and then they do something wrong or fail, and we're so disappointed because we projected all of our light onto them. And so the biggest gift for me in this journey has been like meeting people that I pedestaled and feeling their realness, feeling their rawness, having them share their complete mess of a life, but yet they continue to show up. Like, I'm a mess, I'm falling apart, my marriage is a disaster, but I'm going to continue to show up, and I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to continue to lean in. It's super inspiring to me. Yeah. And go back and do your work.
Yeah. It's so tough to do. That podcast I told you about Russ.
Yeah.
He actually says something at the very end. It's a fun. Have you heard of Flagrant 2? It's called Flagrant now. Andrew Schultz.
No.
They're comedians, so it's like it's one of those stupid podcasts sometimes. But they surprise me, and they bring on guests that just wow me. Really? So, but they brought on Russ, and I don't listen to a whole lot of Russ's music, but I love his story. He's a guy who has come up, and he, at some point, I think he was dropping a song a day. Just the type of work ethic is just so inspirational. Yeah. But, the way that he's talked about, there was a part of him, the reason he had that work ethic, that drive was he was being driven almost by darkness. It was a blessing and a curse. And now that he's gotten to once he finally achieved wealth. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that have achieved that say this. It's not exactly what it seems.
Sure.
And then you're here sitting with, okay, what else is there? So now he's been able to introspect and look at what brings meaning to his life. So, I love his story. But at the end, he was talking about, a lot of artists are literally putting their best selves on IG, and everyone seems like they got it together.
Yeah.
But we're all in the corner like this, afraid to ask for help from each other.
Right.
So the parallels can be whether you make $50K a month, a million, a $50K a year, $50K a month.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, I think a lot of the times we're all going through some of the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, connection.
Yeah.
Like we all desire real connection.
Yeah. So when you said putting people on a pedestal, it's like we're all human.
Everybody's human. Yeah. Everybody's got their thing, and everybody has the same basic human needs underneath it. And connection, especially after COVID, is like, I think that's just at the core of everybody's being, is like we felt like we were all ripped from community, from tribe, locked up.
Yeah.
And now, what is it like to connect again? And I think people are still coming out of that.
Yeah.
And like, I experienced a lot. I felt a lot. There was a lot of fear. Can I communicate that and still like be supported?
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, man. I know you're not an expert in this, but I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the way the world's going, do you think that we're leading down a path where we're gonna eventually lose that connection, or you think there's a way that we can get that back? Do you have a optimistic view of that, or pessimistic? What do you think?
I've seen decades of leading up to this. I come from the backpack era of bikes and playgrounds and shooting hoops under spotlights. And I'm seeing the trend of the disconnect. And then I'm also seeing the showing of the best face forward, which used to be in the physical, and now it's so easy in the virtual, which only amplifies it. So I think we're heading to an extremely deep, dark era of massive reality differences, where some people are connected here and other people are living in a virtual space that doesn't exist. So what I'm seeing are different timelines of presence and future connecting at the same time, and there's going to be a disconnect. There's going to be some people that are connected to community and in-person experiences and kind of like the old way of communing and cooking and celebrating and praying. And then there's going to be this disconnect of people going home feeling empty, looking for the thing on the virtual space, which perpetuates the dopamine that keeps it going and going. I mean, I don't have to be an expert to know that I haven't heard thousands of times the dopamine loop that comes from TikTok and social media, and how addictive that is, and how it actually resets the brain, and the amount of time that I see it in my children, and the amount of time that their attention wants a new fix. And that is like, whoa. So am I optimistic? Yes. I really feel like this conversation and the old ways of doing things are starting to come back. I'm seeing celebrities buy acres and acres of land and say, we're getting out of here. We just want to be with farms and our horses in Montana. Like, that stuff is happening more and more. Andre 3000's going on a ayahuasca experience, and then he's playing the flute. There's another rapper that's about to teach meditation. So I think that we're in a period of deep, dark disconnect, but it's awakening people of influence to use their influence in a way to inspire people to come back to the old ways, which feels like I see it. So I believe it.
I mean, you got to know darkness to know light.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So even the trajectory even the trajectory as a person, a lot of the times you see the transformation comes from darkness.
Yeah.
So even as as a human race, I feel like it could be the same.
Oh yeah, and I think it's going to get much darker. And that's been the trend, and I think we see the kind of veil lifting, and as it lifts, and as people see more and more, I think it's just an invitation for us to really check in, like what matters, like what matters to us anymore, like, and I'm feeling like community is at the top of the list. Community and tribe and a new way of relating is going to change how we navigate through what's happening in the world, bringing each other closer and deeper conversation, deeper relating versus, putting our best face forward.
Yeah. I agree. One more quote. We're actually we're kind of nearing towards the end, but you said, hurt men create confusion with their insecurities. Healed men create clarity with their confidence. Hurt men manipulate to have their ego satisfied. Healed men prioritize their needs themselves. Hurt men offer crumbs of love. Healed men blast your heart open. Hurt men versus healed men.
Yeah.
Got any words on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think what women and what the world craves in men is healthy leadership. And I think what we're witnessing in our world right now is confusion. And a lot of people are confused with leaders, with politicians, with governments, and it's exhausting. And we're also seeing manipulation at its finest. And I think we're able to feel it and to sense that we want something more. What does it look like for a man to be completely clear and integrity and also share from a space of his heart? Like, what does that look like in masculine leadership in the world today? Like, could that be the catalyst for change making how this entire world is led? And the answer for me is yes. I've seen this confusion. I've seen this redirect. I've seen this misdirect. I've seen this manipulation since I was a child, watching my parents yell at the TV and really kind of give away their power to authority. And I think the call today is for men to check in with how they're leading themselves. How does it look for them to go into the trenches of themselves and show up unabashedly, unapologetic, in total alignment and integrity with his needs, with his values, and how he wants to show up in the world. And from that place, the thing that happens is they're able to show up for their partners and absolutely blast their hearts open with love. Women are so used to crumbs. They're so used to this little bait. Crumbs, give me crumbs. Oh, he loved bombed me in text. No, I'm talking like you're going to feel it. You're going to feel a man that knows himself, that's able to walk into a room and it's like, what is it that he's bringing? Well, he's bringing his heart. Everything's online. It's not ego front. It's not, these are my accomplishments. It's not, these are my followers. It's his heart. I've been into a space, it's been cracked 10 times over again, and now I'm able to open with it wide open to the world because I know what's in there. I know it can heal, and I know it can change the world. And that's what I'm speaking to in that, and that's what I feel is the new paradigm of masculine leadership.
Sounds a lot better than what I've heard online.
That's what I'm feeling.
You know, online you get, I think it's, make a bunch of money, get fast cars, bang a bunch of women.
Sure.
There's that red pill wave.
It's the programming.
Yeah. So that sounds a lot more fulfilling.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, there's so much data of people that have gone down that road.
Oh, yes.
You can ask any rapper or any musician that's gone down that road. You see it.
Yeah.
It doesn't end well. We've seen it.
Right. And yet everyone's on their journey.
Yeah. So Yeah, what you speak of sounds more aligned.
Yeah, like I'm here for that.
Yeah.
And
There was just an example. I forgot which podcast I was listening to. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Same.
But it was someone who knew, you know who Dan Bilzerian is?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They asked him, do you think that you might have overdone it with the dopamine rush of the gambling, money, girls, and all the sex, drugs?
Sure.
And he said, I've really been contemplating flying to a island in nature, shaving my head and doing hard work for a month.
Oof. Yeah.
When you see someone who's reached the pinnacle of what you think heaven on earth is as a man.
Sure.
Girls,
he's the drugs,
guy. All of that. As many as you want, as beautiful as you want.
Yeah.
And you see him, I need a reset.
That's
because
a shift.
this ain't it.
Yeah.
You already know that can't be the path.
Right. And yet, oftentimes when somebody's operating from this wounded place of really needing to fill this void, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they got to go there. And in his case, wow, did he go there? Like, that guy really went to the fullest swing of the pendulum in ego, in show, in all the play and all the women. And yet it's just not sustainable. It's at some point the tower is going to crumble. And that's got to be exhausting too. Like I watched that. I'm like, that looks exhausting to carry that whole thing. I wonder if he's tired. And of course, he wants to go to an island. Yeah, like he wants to go to an island and regroup. And I love hearing that. Yeah. I love hearing that because at the end of the day, if he's living a life of peace, joy, happiness, and bliss in that state, well, then write a book, okay? But clearly he's not if he wants to go to an island. Yeah. And so it just kind of gives me a little validity of where I'm at, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm cool without needing those things.
Yeah. If somehow Dan Bilzerian sees this podcast, I need you to write a book because
yes,
it would just be so interesting.
Sure.
To hear the stories and hear everything that he's done and to just be able to see where his mind is now.
Yeah.
You know, because it sounds like he's, having a moment where he's like, this probably isn't it.
Yeah.
So I'd just be very curious to see that progression.
I'd be curious to know where his heart is.
Yeah.
Like where's his heart in all of this? Was his heart completely shut off to everything and everybody? Like, did he even allow any love into his life for himself? Like, did he feel love for himself in it? Like, or was it just all ego running the show? Like, I need to get bigger and bigger and bigger to satiate something. Like, yeah, I'm curious where his mind's at, but I'm also curious, like, what's his heart telling him? Like, it sounds like the heart is the one directing to the island.
Yeah.
Like, I like to think that that's the seat of the soul is the heart. Like, that's the connection to something greater that's might have him speaking to something that could really change the world in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The heart is the seat of the soul.
Yeah.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I got 2 more questions for you.
All right. Bring them through.
What is one question that you wish I would have asked?
Let me breathe that in.
Take your time.
If I could have done anything differently, what would I have done on my journey?
If you could have done anything differently, what would you have done on your journey?
Yeah.
What would you have done?
It's a question that I ask myself. That's why I'm asking of you. Like, if being able to look back and connect the dots now, I wouldn't have changed a thing. And yet I could have changed 100 of things because now I can see it. So I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. So if I could have gone back in time, I would have asked for 1,000 times more support. 1,000 times more support, because the things that I couldn't see, other people could see of me. I couldn't see myself except for the way that I was feeling, but other people could see that I was suffering. Other people could see that I was hurting. Other people knew it. They just didn't want to say anything. Nobody wanted to break that ice. So yeah, over and over again, I would have asked for support. And I say that because I know that somebody out there might be inspired to say, man, ding, ding, ding. Wayne and Sacred both said like it would benefit them if we asked for more support, more reflections, more honesty, more sharing. How do you see me? Like, I'm curious about how you actually see me, because I only see me as I see me, my thoughts, my experiences, my memories, but share with me. How do you see me? Within the Sacred Sons, we call it a living wake. And I think it's one of the most incredible experiences of my life, is that if you were to die tomorrow, wouldn't you love to hear from all of your friends what they thought of you today? And so what we'll do when a man forgets, because men forget all the time, I forget. I have brothers that remind me of what I'm here, who I'm here, what am I here to do? Remind me of the things that I've done. I've kind of gotten in a slump. I'm in the cave. I'm in darkness. We'll sing his song again, and we'll say, you're great. Like, your expression, your playfulness, your joy, what you bring online has inspired me. That piece that you did with the men that morning, I've carried with me and I've shared it to thousands of men. And we will just drown him with reflections of how we see him. And it's called the living wake. And it can completely snap somebody out of their coma that so many people are living in. And so when I say ask for support, it's like those checkpoints along the way can keep somebody alive. They can keep somebody remembering. This is a remembrance. Like, we forget and then we remember. I desire more support in helping me remember so that I can continue to stay on the path.
Wow. I love that. And yeah, I think that is so powerful. Most men out there, we need support, and you've inspired me to actually take some of my relationships a level deeper and ask some of these questions.
So good, man. I'm happy for you for that. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
Oh, you too, bro. Good.
Where can people find you? Actually.
Yeah.
This shirt is dope.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can you talk about your clothing line a little bit? Because, man, we are two tall guys, and the minute I tried on this shirt and the shirts you've let me try it on, I think you were doing a great thing. So, can you talk about the clothing line that you're creating and your intentions behind it?
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you,
everything.
Man. The journey has been wild, because something that I'm 6'4", and I like it to feel a particular way, look a particular way. But more than anything, I've just been frustrated. I've been frustrated going to the stores, and I'm like, that's not it. That's kind of close. Everything's been kind of close. But one of the biggest things for me in my path of self-exploration is like being really mindful about what I put in my body, the books that I read, the media that I take in, the food that I eat, the quality of the water, and the clothes that I wear. Like, what is the intention behind all of these things? This is my vessel. It's my everything. When I say I haven't gotten sick for 2 years, it's a reflection of my mindfulness about what I consume, what I bring in. And what I recognized, it was wild to me. Every clothing brand that was out there was targeting basicness. And it was like, basic this, mediocrity this, don't stand out this, just fit in this. And I'm like, part of the Sacred Sons organization, we're bringing men online. Like, we're breaking the shadow of mediocrity and cracking men into style. And so it's like, be you unapologetically, however that looks, and we're going to celebrate you, because yes, thank you for showing me your edge and your fashion and your style. So I went from like sweater vests and no bust on sweater vests, because, you know, like, if that's your way to rock, like, okay. But I would go into the box stores and I would have no passion behind actually outfitting myself. I'm just going to grab what everybody else is wearing. I'm just going to fit in. And so that didn't feel good. And with this organization, I'm like, it doesn't feel good to support companies that are supporting mediocrity. I'm like, who's the brand that's going to step up and shine the light and hold you in your sovereignty? So I created Sovereign One, which is going to be my clothing brand. And Sovereign One isn't just about clothes, it's about the intention behind the clothes, which is bringing more of you online and walking in a new way. A man that knows himself, that's a Sovereign One. Somebody that's walked a million miles and he can look back and connect all the dots and tell you the story. So I've been in creation here in Austin, Texas, and I'm just moving into production. And so the brand's going to launch in a couple months, and it's going to be available online. You'll be able to find it through my Instagram. You could come, there'll be Shopify, there'll be everything, but it'll be felt when it comes out, because I'm approaching the entire clothing industry in a new way. I'm showing the work that I do with men. I'm showing full self-expression. I'm showing men from the crying to the screaming to the fighting to the praying in the earth. I'm showing all of it. I'm not just showing the guy that's, you know, yo, this is my thing. And I get it. There's a place for that. And I've worn that too. But tell me about the material. Like, is the material being made in a sweatshop? Are the people that are putting their energy into it, is that being put onto my body? Like, I want to know about the journey from the vision of the guy that created it onto me, because this is a representation of who I am. Yeah. And so I created it for me because I couldn't find a brand that I felt a sense of culture that was enhancing fullness or full expression, or like unleashing a rebel in somebody. Like, what does it look like to show a little more V-neck? Like, for the love of God, can I get a dope V-neck? I couldn't find any of these things. So the overall intention under is to have a space for men to feel like they can connect to the mission, they can connect to the purpose, and that I'm going to be bringing out some clothes that represent the culture of men across the globe that I'm connected to, and infusing their expression into who I am and how I make it. So I'm pretty thrilled with how this has come through.
Whenever it's launched, I'm buying it.
Yeah,
I keep telling you this, I'm buying it.
Yes.
But no, I love it.
Yeah,
and I didn't know I could love it even more, but I just did by what you just said. The name Sovereign One.
Yeah.
My brother, we've talked about it, the one that has schizophrenia.
Yeah.
His name is Sovereign.
Oof. Wow.
This Sovereign is probably the most, if you think of someone who embodies light,
yeah,
that's Sovereign. For, like, you know, those people who, why did this happen to, why did this thing happen to? He's one of those people.
Wow.
But he's gonna love it. I'm gonna tell him that
I love this.
His name's you're creating your company and it's gonna be his name. That's great.
This is wild, man.
Yeah, it is wild.
This is really wild.
It's super wild.
Yeah, like I don't even have the words sometimes when things like this happen. I'm deeply touched. I'm touched by your story and, you know, your brother, and it means a lot to me that like I want to get him the first shirt off the run. It's gonna be the S1 drop. So it'll be like the first drop that comes out. Like, it would mean the world to me, because the light that he carries into the world, man, that's the men that I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many men out there, man, that are walking through this world of darkness, and they've got light, and they're just the lighthouses. Like, this clothes is for the men that are on the lighthouses, so the guys that are in darkness can see it and be like, what is it that you guys got going on? What are you rolling with? Like, tell me more. Let's go into the forest. Let's go for that walk. And it becomes an invitation for everyone. And so I'd love to get it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'd love to get it on him.
I appreciate that. Yeah. That is him. He's,
that's beautiful.
He wakes up, he has the rituals, he grounds himself, he meditates. He is that guy.
Oh, that's so cool, man. What a synchronicity. Yeah.
Well, man. So, last question.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done,
yeah,
what's the impact that you want to have on the world?
When I think about me walking in this world, I think about the 5 men that are going to carry my body. They're going to carry my casket. And they're going to go to my daughters, Aubrey and Bella, and my partner, Claudia, and they're going to sing my song. They're going to tell them about the work that I did in the world, the play, the joy, the love. And my prayer is that my children will never forget that song, and that they'll have a North Star of a man that feels so good for them to find a partner that only emulates the qualities that Dad brought out, and that they can experience a life of just deep, true love and happiness with a healthy male figure. And I think that will ripple into my entire ancestral line forever. And I couldn't ask for anything more. And the work that I do, the impact that I have in the world, I don't think I will ever get to understand the conversations or the truths or the little nuggets or the bits or pieces that might impact somebody. But I trust, I have faith, I know that the way that I show up, the truth that I share, that it will have a legacy to it. And my prayer is that the legacy that I leave is a legacy of love.
That's beautiful, man. It's been so good, bro. Yeah. It's been so good.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you too, brother. Thank you for the space.
Yeah.
Grateful to share with your audience.
Yeah, man.
Really am.
I'm excited for them to hear it, man, because you've inspired me. You inspired me.
This is the Sacred Talk.